And we're live. Welcome to the All Balls No Filter podcast, live from the cabin kitchen. I'm Zach. He's Brad.
What's up?
And behind the scenes, we have a man that in 2008 was the world XL champion. It's Researcher Carl.
Hey, Researcher Cal, welcome. You all right, Zach? How are you doing?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. I'm even better after the weekend. I'm not going to lie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Not too bad. It's been a busy one, a bit of a chaotic weekend and early start to the week, but I'm really excited to get stuck into it.
Hell yeah. What we got in store for today, mate?
Yeah, so as always, at this time of year, we're going to revisit the coaching carousel and, of course, check out the biggest games of the season so far for our balls of the week. And that's the AFC and NFC championship games, of course. And as always, we can't forget all of the balls, which we're quickly learning don't always include balls. And just those general major stories in the world of sport and the return of, drumroll, stats that sound fake.
Oh, I like this one, me. I like this one. The stats that sound fake. I'm looking forward to this. But we've got a jam-packed episode as per usual. So let's get into our coaching carousel for the week. Boom, we are here. There's been a lot happening. Hey, look, I think the NFL were listening to the All Balls No Filter podcast because we said it. As soon as John Harbaugh gets hired, boom, everyone else is going to do, and it's happened. Right? There's been loads of hires over these past 2 weeks. We covered a few of them last week. More going on this week. There's stuff going in as we speak every single day. Do you want to run through a couple of them, mate?
Yeah, so just to recap, if you didn't check us out last week and you've been living under a rock in the NFL world, we have John Harbaugh hired as the head coach for the Giants. Robert Saleh was taken on by the Titans. Kevin Stefanski was one of those other probably top tier names that was been floated around. He lines himself up with the Falcons and a really exciting potential, I think, with that team. Jeff Hafley to my Dolphins there. Really impressed with his opening press conference, by the way. I don't know if you caught it. Him and Sully, the new GM, definitely in lockstep. I was dead impressed with that, but I won't go on. And then since then, if I'm not mistaken, we've had Jesse Minter hired by the Ravens, which I think when John was first let go, I'm not sure if his name was there at the forefront. I could be wrong, but he definitely became that front runner, didn't he, through the process. Steelers hired Mike McCarthy, so the return of the big dog. And then just today, as we record, I believe, Joe Brady promoted at the Bills, so kept within to the head coach. What's your thoughts?
You know what, right? I like the Mike McCarthy one, me. Right? I like Mike McCarthy at Steelers. He's a Pittsburgh guy. Like, I'm sure Research Carl's going to have something to say about it as well, being a Steelers fan himself. But I like him there. I believe as well I think he's the oldest head coach that they've ever hired. So like they normally go for the younger guys. I quite like that there. I'll be honest with you. There's a couple of names standing out there. Robert Saleh at the Titans. I do like that pick, but it contradicts itself being a defensive coach with a generational. I know you love that word. I'm going to keep bringing it up. The generational QB that they've got in Cam Ward. But yeah, there's a few in there. The Browns make me laugh. I'm going to touch on the Browns in a second. But what's your view on these? Like, anyone stand out to you?
Yeah, I probably agree. And I think you mentioned the Salah one, and that's actually really interesting, isn't it? Because I'm sure it's official. It's official, or it's nearly official. But Brian Daboll is going to the Titans as the OC, I believe, and I think that's probably one of the best moves, I think, of this hiring cycle. Like, you look at the work he did with Allen at the Bills, and he obviously didn't have that same success at the Giants, although you could argue he was polishing a turd a little bit at times. Like, he did have some good Danny Dimes years, or at least a year of good Danny Dimes. So I think that hire there for Cam Ward is potentially one of the top hires of the whole coaching carousel. And I know we won't have time to dig into every OC, DC, quarterback, DB coach hire there is, but that's definitely one that stands out. I think another one, obviously not on this list because we're looking currently at the head coaches. Again, trying not to be biased, but Mike McDaniel, who's, unless he secures a head coaching job, is the OC of Chargers. And I think that's just, there's just a little nugget as a Dolphins fan that really interests me with that one, because there's always the Justin Herbert Tua thing.
Yeah.
You're comparing two different players, but it's going to be really interesting now Mike's gone there. But on the flip side, how many offensive coordinators have gone there hoping that's going to catapult them into a head coaching role, and it's failed miserably. So it's interesting.
It's that personality clash for me for Chargers. Like, you've got Jim Harbaugh and you've got Mike McDaniels right there, who are two completely. You look at them on paper, it's like kind of chalk and cheese. I saw like a pretty funny video circular on X. It was like this guy's recreating the interview process, and it's so funnily accurate, and nothing's talking about football. And it's like going deep dive into conversation with it. But it's good, and I'm excited to see it, because I agree with you there. I think it's got the potential. It's got everything written on the cards to be a very, very, very exciting signing there. Like, but I mentioned the Browns not so long back, and they're still vacant at the moment, and there's been loads of things circulating about the hiring process of what the Browns are doing right now, and they're sending questionnaires out, and they're sending this out, and they're sending that out, and they're making you do this, this, and this, and it's like people are withdrawing themselves because it's not the right fit. And at what point do you realize, like, hey, hang on, we're having to kind of resort now, and again, I'm probably going to get this wrong. I'm hoping RC can kind of back me up on this. They're about like bumping the DC up to head coach, and it seems like a bit of like a, well, we ain't got anybody, so get yourself in here, pal. Like that kind of hire.
Well, that's the rumor, though, isn't it? That apparently a lot of guys are pulling out because the Browns love this guy and they're saying, well, you're keeping him on as a DC, but actually, who knows what goes on behind the closed doors? Is it actually that the Browns want him anyway, and they're just going through the motions? They've got to go through that cycle, haven't they? They've got to interview so many people, and so many people of certain backgrounds, X, Y, Z. But you've got Jim Schwartz there rubbing his hands together, thinking, this is mine. This is mine. Yeah. Just because I'm an inconvenience, this is going to be mine. I think it's 4 withdrawals, researcher Carl's saying. That's whether, the thing is, we don't always hear about everything, do we? But it's really quite public this year that Browns have had 4 people withdraw. And you think of the guys that are withdrawing, they've worked their backsides off for as long as they've been around, the sport, which for most of these guys will be since they could walk and throw a ball. And then to turn down opportunities to be a head coach, which in the coaching game is the biggest job you can have. It's a bit awkward, isn't it?
I agree. I just think it's, at what point do you give your organisation a bit of a look at and think, right, okay, if people are pulling themselves out, there's guys that have taken jobs, like you say with Mike McDaniel. If he doesn't get a head coaching job elsewhere, he's going to be the OC at the Chargers. Well, he's pulled away from a head coaching role, like as in a potential being in line with it. He's pulled away from that. Like, it's just a bit of a shake up there. And another curveball in the coaching carousel world. The Bills hired Joe Brady, but there were a little name getting thrown around, which I liked, about the Bills' next potential head coach before Brady got named. And that was Mr. Philip Rivers. Went in for an interview. Now, could you imagine Philip Rivers walking into that building being like the most, even in his prime, the most like immobile QB, just stood in the pocket, threw the ball right, left, right, centre, walk up to Josh Allen going, right, we're going to make you a pocket passer. This is what we're going to do. Like, can you imagine? It'd been so surreal seeing that for me. But
I thought it was hilarious because, like, you hear about all these press conferences, the sacrifices that people make. I can't remember who it was now. I saw it that one of the head coaches sees his kids for like 30 minutes in a week because he comes home early from the facility one. Yeah, Mike McDonald. Thank you, Cal. Sees his kids for 30 minutes a week. Now, we won't get into the arguments about that side of stuff, but it's funny because then you've got Philip Rivers, who's probably going for this head coach job to get away from his 65,000 kids. So he's not got to see them for half an hour a week.
That's it. But yeah, that's the that's the main kind of stories around the coaching world and what's going in the head coaching side of things. Anyway, not coordinator side. If we missed anything, guys, do us a favor. Let us know in the comments below. What's your favorite signs? Well, what are you looking forward to? Has your team got a new head coach? If so, what do you reckon? Let us know, because we're interested and we want to kind of engage with you guys more about what you think on this. So
I've got a question for you just before we move on. Let me interrupt.
Go for
just one. Obviously, we know the results and we'll get into those, but a year ago, 2 years ago, every year there's been a question about the one and only LA Rams head coach. Is he or is he not going into the world of media? Is he going to retire with his model wife? Like, do we see that happening, or is that how close he was again to?
No.
I don't know. Is it too tempting?
No. I think he's there. I think he's there for the good. I think he doesn't need to move on. I think he's crushed it. I don't think his job's under scrutiny at all. I don't think he's going to be forced out, like say Tomlin was, for instance, or anything, for just not getting there. Because I think he's borderline across that mark pretty much most of the time. Anyway, I don't know. It's at what point, because he's still pretty young, right?
He's very young.
Into the coaching world, he's still pretty young. So he's still got a life ahead of him. I mean, I'd just be bringing that coin in me until pressure starts getting out. It's not like he's Bill Belichick, where he could retire if he wanted to, but he's old now to a point where he's got all this money and he can't really enjoy his life that much, I mean,
McVay's what is he, 30, 38, 39? I don't even think he's 40 yet, or he's close to 40. Like, he might have just turned 40, maybe. In fact, I'm just looking now, actually. He has just turned 40, actually, just a few days ago.
Nice.
But, he's got another 40 plus years ahead of him,
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't see him going to another team. If that makes the question any better, I don't see him going to another team. I think when he's finished at the Rams, he walks away into the sunset with all his money and his really hot wife. Like,
yeah, it'll be interesting, won't it? Yeah, it's just a little nugget. It's just sort of been in my mind since obviously Sunday night, and just like, what does it mean next? But I'm sure we'll unpick that a little bit.
That's it. And speaking of the Rams, we're getting to his balls of the week this week. We've only been having 2 games on this week. We've only got 2 balls of the week, and we'll be deep diving into these games in particular. This episode, by the way, guys, is more of a championship round episode. We're going to be deep diving into the Super Bowl next week in particular, and the preview for that next week. This week, all about the championship round. Championship, remember that word, Brad? Championship round. When we get into our second balls of the week. But for the first one, over to you, my man. Who is it and what we got?
Well, we of course got the Super Bowl happening Sunday night just passed, with the LA Rams falling short against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, this has absolutely been the game of the year, or it's up there with the other 2 games that they've had. It's just, there's no other way to really describe the battle that these 2 teams have had. I mean, the back and forth, the Seahawks go up front first, and then the Rams start bringing it back and take the lead, and it's back and it's forth and it's back and it's forth the whole way through the game. It was just an absolute classic from start to finish. I mean, Darnold had a career night, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. We spoke about it last week, about this story of Darnold, and I just love it for the guy. I absolutely love it. It was an absolute battle of offense as well, which is the weirdest thing. Seattle's known this last year or 2 for its defense, like its smash mouth defense, and ultimately that is what the game came down to, didn't it? They had the big red zone stop, and it won the game for them. But for both those players to have, I mean, just the stats. Look at those stats on the screen now. You've got, as I said, you've got Darnold, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. You've got Stafford, 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was just an absolute battle the whole way through. I absolutely loved it from start to finish. Now, I won't lie to you. I watched this yesterday. I didn't watch it live. I wasn't staying up for reasons that I'm sure we'll get into shortly. But it was just... You can see where this is going, can't you? But it
I know what
was
you're talking about.
just an absolute classic in every sense of the word. And I almost just feel not sad because the Super Bowl is always a great night, but I just, I'm just imagining this as we do. We attend the same Super Bowl party, and just imagining watching this game with that atmosphere would have just been, it'd have been electric, and the game was electric. It's just,
Fully agree.
yeah, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant from start to finish.
It had a bit of everything in there, and again, I didn't stay up to watch the game. I rewatched the highlights. It is on a stupid time for us a lot of the time, is the later games in particular, but it had that entertaining championship game factor behind it. It really did, and there's no, the two championship games were so chalk and cheese, and not just because of scorelines either, just the way the games went and what happened within the games. But like this one, everything that was on the field was just, JSN is something. He's a machine. There were a pass, right, and there were a pass where JSN brings it in one-handed, right. When you deep dive and look at that pass, it's actually a no-look pass from Darnold. You put that in the Chiefs 2-3 years ago, it had been blown up on the internet. And I saw it being shared by some guy on X that I don't actually follow. It was just a random tweet out there. It's incredible to watch. And I agree with what you're saying. That was the Super Bowl. There's no two ways about it. And we'll get into kind of that in a little bit. But it was a Super Bowl quality game. It's what you want within the Super Bowl. But it did come with some questionable bits towards the back end. But I'll get into that in a second with that. It's the special teams. I'm going to hammer special teams again because I love it. But anything else from yourself on that?
I just think it was like just the way the ball was spread around amongst players and on both sides, like there's a reason Stafford's quite possibly, I think, likely maybe to be the MVP, and he did. He did have an absolute stormer of a game. Devontae was there for him. It was just brilliant. You had Mevis, who's kicking like the 50-yard plus field goal, keeping them going, keeping them in the mix. And then on the flip side of that, as you say, you've got JSN. The big one for me, which really caught my attention, was Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
There's some story there. Well, the obvious story there, but it's that storytelling within the game, and I love it. Like just little nuggets like that. It was just from start to finish. It was just brilliant. Like an absolute electric game.
Entertaining to say the least. And we're going to touch into special teams now. And I know we've battered on about this over the past couple. It feels like every week recently we've been saying something about how special teams can make or break your game. And this is what it comes down to here. Xavier Smith had 2 muffed punt returns. Now, the first one, he was lucky enough, he dropped it and picked it back up. The second one, he called a fair catch, fell backwards, dropped the ball. The Seahawks picked it up, put them in prime position. They went and scored. I mean, it was 17-3 at the time in the third quarter when this happened. I don't know what he was thinking when he did it. Just to explain, if you are listening to this and you're relatively new to the sport, if my team punts the ball to Brad's team and Brad's team fair catches it, waves the hand up in the air, they walk away from where the ball's going to land, it hits the floor, my team picks it up, it's still Brad's team's ball because no one on his side of the ball touched it. Now, if I kick it up in the air, Brad's team fair catches it, goes to catch it, drops the ball, that ball then becomes live on a punt. So if my team picks it back up, it's my ball from there, right? So as a coach, and research Carl is also an assistant when it comes down to coaching special teams. The one thing we try and hammer in at an amateur level is if we tell you to move away from that ball, if you're fair catching it in a safe spot, just move away. If you're not going to return the ball, just move away. Like you wouldn't risk in the biggest game of your career, Like up to lead to the biggest game of your career as well, the Super Bowl. Don't risk it. What was he thinking? I mean, if that ball's swirling as much in the air as it looked to be to make him move backwards and roll backwards and whatever it was to try and catch the ball, just move out of the way. Your team would rather be on their 1 yard line moving up the field than giving the ball back on the 30 or 20 yard line to go into the end zone. It is just that there lost them the game. It was 17-3 third quarter, which then gets to a touchdown to make it 24-13, which puts the momentum back in. It's a 2-score game then. Puts the momentum back in to the Steelers' hands. Sorry, the Rams, the Seahawks' hands. I will get my words out
eventually.
Yeah, I'll just name all the teams. But yeah, that just blew my mind from that side of things.
Yeah, I mean it's basics, isn't it? It's absolute basics for them, and maybe the pressure got to him. It's like you say, it's one of the biggest games of his career, and the pressure does get to you in those situations, doesn't it? You can be as experienced as you want, you can be as composed as you want, but like the pressure does get to you. And we've all experienced it in different avenues of life. But I think it just that chain of events just gave Seahawks that little bit of room that they needed to be able to then control that fourth quarter. The rest of the game from that point, really. Like,
yeah,
the third quarter was what it was. The fourth quarter had, I think, no points, if memory's serving right. And you had the Rams who had that late push. They had the long drive. Was it like 7+ minute drive, and marched down the field, but they just didn't have the time. And there was the red zone stop, and it was just, it's all ifs and buts, isn't it? Like, I'm a big believer in you can't blame one play on a game.
Oh.
And we're going to have that same discussion point in the Patriots Broncos game. I can see it already, but you can't blame one play on losing the game, but it just shifts that momentum. It just gives that team that little bit of an opportunity to compose themselves and to be able to control how the rest of that game goes. And when you've got control of the clock, and we know it's a game of chess, isn't it? So it was a tough one for him to swallow, I bet.
If you are an aspiring player and you're going to go play amateur or whatever in the UK, please just take notice of special teams, because it can literally lose your games in both this game and the next game. It can win or lose your games. It really can. But before we move on to the next game, I want to talk about chance and luck and fate. Right. Rashid Shaheed started the year at the New Orleans Saints. He's finishing the year going to the Super Bowl. Is that the trade of the trade deadline, or what? Is that... I can't think of a better progressional trade for a player like this year.
I mean, it's got to be up there, hasn't it? Like, he'll be absolutely loving life. It's an interesting chain of events, the way this sport works. And, names
Wild.
who have... I'm not saying like a name who's nothing, but like, it's not... You're not thinking, oh my God, you're going to go out and get that guy. It wasn't like all the talk, obviously, like Tyreek Hill, where's he going to be by the trade deadline, obviously, before he destroyed himself. But, like, it wasn't one of those names, was it? It was just a steady trade, and what happened.
It came in last minute as well.
The Super Bowl, yeah.
It came in last minute as well, and he's arguably played better games here. He's performed a lot better. It just goes to show, that player, all these players that play professionally are obviously very, very good at the job, but if they're in the wrong scheme and they're in the wrong environment, Sam Darnold's a key for this. But yeah, anything else on the Rams and Seahawks game before we move on to our game of the week? Not ball of the week, the game of the week.
The game of the week. That's an interesting take. The only thing really I had is, and I don't know how much it did or didn't really, particularly with this game, like how much home field advantage matters, because you've got Rams and Seahawks who have been arguably, or unarguably actually, the best two teams in the league the whole way through. from start to finish, and it was literally battling between those two teams who'd be the first seed in the NFC. And obviously Seahawks got that, and they got the home field advantage. And it's just interesting, like with the game this close, and there's no quantifiable data to show this, is there? But how much did that really matter? And I think adding to that, the Seahawks struck first and got points on the board first, and took that bit of a lead and a bit of an advantage. It gets the momentum behind the crowd. I don't know. It's just a food for thought.
All right, I'm going to expand on that a little bit, right? And let me just ask you a question back here. And this is just literally just coming to me now. The NFC has undoubtedly been the better conference this year, with the more exciting teams in it, right? If it continues to go this way, and like you say, the Rams Seahawks was the Super Bowl as such, do the NFL look at a playoff structure very similar to like what college would be, where, you know, once you get to the playoffs, you then have bowls, for instance, like it could be an AFC bowl, an NFC bowl, just for instance, like your championship games could be the top two teams from, or just something along the lines of, and then you have a 1 and 2 seed that would get to the Super Bowl. So you could see the likes of Rams Seahawks at the Super Bowl, because they could, once they get to the playoffs, you could then, you know, get your top however many teams, 12 teams, whatever.
I just think that concept's quite hard, isn't it? Because I think it's different at college, because players will value the bowl games because they're looking for exposure and they're looking for opportunities.
Which is fine.
Whereas I think in the NFL, you know, you're looking, some players are still looking for that, but they're in the NFL because they want to be the best. And now you could argue it's still the best two teams, you know, X, Y, and Z. I just wonder if, are you taking away that reward for smashing it through the season? But on the flip side, what would be interesting is, do you give home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and then the championship game you have at like a neutral venue? Similar to what happens in football over here, you tend to get those neutral venues by the time you get to the semis, don't you? Or you do, you know, particularly in some tournaments within football and rugby, we've experienced that as well. But how much of that then are you taking away the reward for grafting through the season and keeping pushing to the very end to get that first seed? It's a difficult one.
Neutral venue would be cool for me. I'd like neutral venue and kick off at the same time. And is it for like a fan side of things, you have the choice of watching, like, you know, Scott Hansen on Red Zone again for these two games, just back and forth, like in between, or you could watch your own game. I think it'd be great, because then you get to see who's in the Super Bowl at the same time. It just adds that bit of excitement towards it. But that was just, again, just a bit of a, do they have a real look at seeding to make the Super Bowl, you know, the two informed teams, let's just say, because you want to put the best team being Seahawks at the start of the year, would you? They've just been informed all year and they haven't dropped.
Yeah, fair comment, definitely.
Right, Rams, Seahawks done, dusted. We're now moving on to the balls of week number 2, which is the New England Patriots at the Denver Broncos, finishing 10-7. Now, look, not the best example of a championship game, but the weather didn't help. And I will touch on the weather a few times, but as I've said in previous podcasts, it's the same for both teams. If you'd have gone to bed and woke up the next morning, not watched any of the football, checked your phone, opened your NFL app up, seen 10-7, and seen the fact that the winning quarterback goes for 10 for 21, 85 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, you think, is this preseason? Like, what's happening here?
That being said, that was no passing touchdowns. I'm sure he was the only touchdown scorer of the Pats.
Yes, I'm just literally just about to go into that there. That the only touchdown that was scored was a nice little 6-yard touchdown from his QB, Mr. Drake May, right? So he did go into that. Now look, if there were a still getting put on the screen throughout the fourth quarter. I know you fell asleep throughout the fourth quarter. It's like there's still shit that got put on.
I did.
From the first to the fourth quarter, right? And the weather difference was unreal. I think it dropped to -8 at one point, right? It was absolutely balmy. So it all kind of came down to like the first half in particular for the points as such. But it came down with both defenses realistically here earning the wage, both being put out there. Who's going to stop it more than anything else? And the Pats D kind of came out on top on that. Now, yes, don't get me wrong, there was Stidham in the backfield, right? Which, look, I'm going to say this now. Stidham came out and I text my mate Jimmy. Our mate Jimmy, right, plays for the team. He's a Pats fan. I texted him halfway through the first quarter saying, we've lost this. We're bottling it. Because Stidham came out firing. He looked calm. He looked composed. He looked in control. He eventually went for 17-30, 133 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Half decent stats for the weather, right? That being said, the first big issue that occurred to him, the shovel pass, right? That ended up going as a fumble. He lost his momentum there and then. Which, look, Bo Nix would not have made that decision to do that pass, which led to the Patriots scoring. Right, and I'm not disputing that. I'm going to touch on Bo Nix in just a second. Right, he did come out and throw 133 yards in the -8 and the snow. It was his first start in over 2 years, in over 2 years in an NFL game. The first time he's ever been in the playoffs, and I was really impressed how he came out. But that composure did show. Now, I'm going to ask you here, Brad, and I know what your answer is going to be with it already, but realistically, let's say the Miami Dolphins was where the New England Patriots were there and then, right? Realistically, does Bo Nix make much more of a difference because of the weather?
100%.
See, I disagree.
I think
I don't.
I echo everything you said about the start he had, and I texted another one of our friends who's a Pats fan, Jono, and all I sent him was a little meme, just a little face looking a bit cheeky and a bit smirky.
Yeah.
And then another friend says, if Pats win this, it's going to be your fault, Brad. And I was just like, yeah, absolutely. We've got Callum chiming up in the background here. Obviously, you can't see him, but he's absolutely echoing my thoughts. What you don't have with Stidham, what we've seen from Bo Nix, 2 things. You've got the composure, which you've already alluded to, Zach. I don't think Nix makes those slight questionable plays, or he executes them in a different way. That lateral pass, which actually went backwards, so it was a fumble, which was crap that the referees blew that dead, by the way.
Yes.
It's frustrating, but, it didn't impact anything. Pats converted. They got the touchdown that they should have had anyway. So nothing changed there, thankfully. But I think little things like that, he maybe doesn't make. And even if he does, what you've got in a game like this, as research Cal's correctly saying, you've got that rushing threat, which you just don't have from Stidham. Stidham's a pocket passer. You've got the rushing threat for him. You've got the composure. He's got the connection with the players. Like, he's got the chemistry. And I just think in a game this close, it obviously was close, and the weather absolutely impacted it. It did. And I'm not going to shirt away from that. Those that have listened for the last few weeks know my thoughts on this New England Patriots team, and I'll give them their flowers. They're in the chuffing Super Bowl. Credit where credit's due. My team's not. My team's nowhere near it. So, fair play. And they've played some really good football. They have. But I just think with Nix playing, it's a Broncos victory when it's a game this close. I just can't. I can't shake away from that.
See, I think that first, obviously, we didn't score a touchdown afterwards. And hindsight's a wonderful thing. And if buts and maybes, you alluded to earlier on that you don't really like doing them, but it happens with it. I agree. I don't think Nix makes that shovel pass. I don't think. I think the interception at the end of the game to seal it for the Patriots was. If Mike Vrabel has purposely put the Patriots all in white because he was due a blizzard, he's the smartest man in football. I don't believe he did, because a lot of the reports coming back were that the snow or the weather wasn't forecast to be as bad as what it actually was. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts these past couple of days, just bouncing around the NFL as such, and they've all said I checked the weather before and I weren't expecting the severity of what it was. I think Stidham's looked up there, not seeing Gonzo because of the snow that's absolutely battering around, and I think obviously that's it. You could tell he didn't see it because it was just such a half-ass pass. I agree with the rushing aspect of it. My flip side to the rushing aspect of that is Pats have got a pretty decent rush stop, and they have done mostly. I mean, they held Denver to 79 rushing yards like yesterday alone, Sunday alone. I understand that Bo Nix weren't there, and having that like you can send him into pass and you can escape out, that very much Drake Mays-esque like feel to it. I get that. I think the game gets away, and whatever the score like pretty much at halftime is kind of what's going to carry on going through, just because of the weather. Now I'm going to touch on a play really quickly now, and I'm coming back to my boys, the special teams, right, and how one minor mistake for the Broncos made them not score points. So there were a 45-yard field goal attempt that the Broncos went for, right? And Taylor, the third, I think it is, comes through, gets fingers to it, taps it away. The athleticism there for the player of his size is unbelievable. Now, post-game, Will Lutz comes out and says, the snow was that thick on the field, I actually marked it. I got my spotter to spot the ball a yard closer to the centre than I would have done normally by mistake, because he couldn't see the yard marks on the floor. So if he'd have gone back a yard and been where he were, that tip would have never have happened. And I find that, like, just he'll be sat in bed tonight going like, why don't I just count? Like, I know
I just can't believe that. I just do not believe that for a second. Like, I'm sorry, but these kickers, right? They literally, and I hate when people use this word, but they literally have one job. Their job, day in, day out, all day, every day, is to kick field goals. I'm sorry, but they don't need to see yard markers to know how far back they need that ball. That is absolute baloney, to use an American term. That's a load of rubbish.
I am inclined to agree with you, right? I am. I just think it was just a great play from the Pats D. Now, let's talk a fourth down play again. We're in a group chat that briefly touched up on this. 4th and 1. You've got the momentum because Stidham is playing well at the time. Okay. Was it the correct decision to go for it on that 4th and 1? Or hindsight again is a wonderful thing. The conditions were half decent. It'd have put them 10-0 up, as RC just telling me in chat here. To shift that and make it a 2-score game, do you go for that field goal to calm Stidham down, or what do you reckon?
Absolutely. I think Peyton needs to own that. And in that situation, like, people can look at it in hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I think at that moment, that was absolutely the 100% right call. I think Stidham was marching. I thought New England looked terrible at the time. I don't think the defense was worrying him too much. They were marching down the field. They'd put points on before, they'd have a big sort of deep pass to set them up for that touchdown. I think 100% it was the right call. What wasn't the right call was the actual play call. I think the play design was shocking. And I think the fact that was the timeout, if I'm not mistaken, at the time as well, it allowed New England to adjust, and they sent like 6-7 big guys, and they just flooded the space. I think the call was the right call. I think the play call was quite clearly the wrong call.
I fully agree with you there, mate. I fully agree with you. And as much as points points get prizes, this wasn't the first quarter this happened. This weren't a fourth quarter decision to make. This was early in the game. Stidham were driving, and I just agreed. I just think think the design play wasn't the one.
And I think that's where Bo Nix comes in handy, though, doesn't it? Like, you've got 4th and 1, and with that threat of his legs, you've got multiple choices that the D need to worry about, then, don't they?
Which is understandable. It's completely understandable. But Bo Nix were on that field. Stidham were. So the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl, right? Now, I want to touch on something with you here. Now, you've been quite vocal about the Patriots' schedule like everybody else has, because nobody can just give us credit, right? Yes, I admit Stidham were leading, right? Stidham scores, right? He scores touchdowns, he creates touchdowns, things like that. Happy days. But there's people up against our offense as well, and that's that's every team's defense. Now, the Patriots have come up against 3 of the top 5 defenses in the playoffs alone, right? Come on, right? I get. Look, I'm gonna shoot my own argument in the foot here. I get CJ Stroud would ask. The Chargers' offensive line wasn't the best at the time, and I get that Stidham were playing and not Bo Nix. But they don't play defense. They don't play defense. Like, we've got guys running at our guys, and you could think about one of our biggest weaknesses last year with the offensive line, and it's still not fantastic now. But we marched through it. We bet 3 of the top 5 defenses.
Look, listen, again, giving them the flowers. New England can have all the flowers they want. They're in the Super Bowl. They are representing the AFC. They're representing the AFC East. But look, they've still not, and I stand by this, they've still not played a high-quality team. And I'm emphasizing here the word team, right?
Okay.
Because the NFL has 3 phases to it. The D that you've just referred to. They have the special teams, which you're saying has obviously played a big part. And then there's the offense, right? Let's just revisit LA Rams and Seahawks. 31-27. That's a combined points of 58. Yeah?
Defense didn't do the job. Simple.
You can argue that, absolutely. But, so I was having this conversation with a friend of mine earlier today, actually. So in the background, unbeknownst to you, Zach, researcher Carl has been squirreling away, finding some interesting stats.
Okay.
So when looking at playoffs, just the playoffs alone, because that's what you're talking about, yeah? 3
go for
amazing Ds, right? In 1979, so just take that year into your head. 1979, that's over 50 years ago. God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The Rams made the Super Bowl, and their average points per game throughout that playoff series was 15 points. So just to confirm, that is the lowest in history points per game that a team has made the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'm sure you can see where this is going.
I can.
In second place.
Yep.
In second place, you have the 2025 Pats with 18 points per game average through the playoffs. Like, that is atrocious. They are going to get absolutely smashed to pieces next week. In a fortnight.
See, people have said this about the past couple of weeks and about it happening, about coming up against teams against a certain caliber and things like that. Now, look, a couple of things to say back to that. And I'm not going to go into this Super Bowl naive, by the way. I understand what's against us. Trust me, because I've backed pretty much, and I've like other than in our predictions when we spoke about the games coming up, I've said I think the Patriots will probably lose. I've just backed my boys because they're my boys. I've been open and I've not been naive about that. If the Patriots beat the Seahawks, what's your excuse then? What's the excuse then? They were lucky, because there will be an excuse. There will be.
Yeah. There will. Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. That's the excuse.
Exactly. And the next one to this, right? Obviously, 31-27, great game. 10-7. We spoke about this in rugby terms. Sometimes you can get a 2-2 in rugby, and it's been one of the best games you've watched. It's been a defensive battle. But
this wasn't.
But because it was. This were a defensive battle because it's snow. But anyway,
the game was horrendous, and it quite literally put me to sleep.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way. Because if Lewis Hamilton wins by a millisecond or a second or 10 seconds or a minute, he still won. And that's what we did. We won. That's why we're in the Super Bowl. I'm all for it. Now, look, I don't want to talk too much Super Bowl because I want to wait until next week because I don't want to get too irate about it until next week. I aren't daft. All right? But we'll go for it from there. Right, so let's have a look at his predictions. Let's have a look at where we stand from this week alone. Because I believe, here we go, it's on screen now. So me and Research Carl both backed the Seahawks to beat the Rams. and then all three of us backed New England to beat Denver because of the obvious reason. Which for the week, we've got a nice little graphic here, which for the week puts us at 1-1 for you, Brad, and then 2-0 for both me and Cal. Now, next year, guys, we've been talking about this behind the scenes. Next year, I think we're going to do a bit of a running total going forward. And what we might do is we might set like a bit of a way for you guys to get involved as well, so we can be like us versus you guys as well. So you can get you as a collective, get you as a poll. I can get a poll on the go, and to do that, get yourselves over to all of the socials at ABNF Pod. Everywhere you want to go, got it right. Look, check them all out. Head over to YouTube to see all the graphics and things as well, guys. If you are listening in your vehicle or without the video there, Spotify and YouTube have these. Go hit follow and all that jazz. Keep up to date with everything. Right, predictions done. We've spoke about this week. We're going to save the Super Bowl for next week. I reckon we should roll into a bit of stats that sound fake. What do you reckon?
How about we hit all of the balls first?
All the balls? All right, I'm happy to go all the balls. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm dead excited about this.
All right, fair enough. Right. All the balls. Brad, take it away. What is all of the balls and what we're going in store for this one?
So all of the balls is where we hit the latest news stories in the world of sport. And as I said at the top of the show, they don't always include balls, or they have slightly misshapen balls. And you could kind of say the same about our first story, because they have 4 slightly weird shaped, squished balls. If we're using your analogy about the puck last week, you could argue.
Yes, I was about to call you out on that. Yeah.
It's a very tedious link.
Yeah, you gotta give me that one. I'll give you that one.
I'm of course talking about the F1 season. So if you're into F1 or you're into motorsports in general, obviously Formula One is arguably the biggest sport in the world of motorsport. And this week sees the launch of pre-season testing. So we've started having a few liveries sort of been revealed, and I'm sure we'll touch on that because that's definitely the sort of superficial world of the F1, but it seems to be one of the biggest parts of the pre-season. But I think this year alone, well, it does, it's a fact, has seen the biggest changes ever all at once. Zach, I know you're a big Formula One fan, just as I am.
Yeah.
Do you fancy taking us through those changes a little bit?
So, where do we start with them? To be fair, like they've brought in the regulation changes, so they're all on the same engine unit now, aren't they? They've tweaked that engine unit now, so everyone's kind of running a very similar one there. Mercedes, so with the power units, they get notified like a season or 2 seasons in advance when it's going to change. So like Mercedes, for instance, have been on the back burner for the last 2 years because they knew where they were going to be at to kind of get ready for this now to then go out and smash it from where it is there. And the tests are kind of going out there in Barcelona to get shown from it. They're all running them wheels now as well, aren't they? The flat facing wheels.
Yes, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because obviously you mentioned the engine and now you've dropped on the wheels, but I think it's the first time ever, or definitely in a long time, that the engine's changed, the regulations around the engine's changed, the regulation about, the wheels have changed, but then also the actual chassis requirements have changed as well. So all 3 things have changed at once. So I know sometimes you might get 2 or you might just get 1, but all 3 have changed at the same time. So it's quite an unprecedented season, really, where you're going to see a lot of change. I mean, you've got 2 new teams on the grid. You got Audi and Cadillac now on the grid. But then you've got a host of teams now running their own power units, their own engines, basically, which are 50-50 split, I believe. So previously, it was a slightly less electric input, but now it's a 50-50 between the electric and the combustion engine. Much bigger battery, and the way that's deployed is different as well, isn't it? That power, the way it's built and deployed, it's weird. It's interesting.
You normally find when a powertrain or an engine unit gets kind of redone, you normally find like Mercedes have planned to do this year. Like Red Bull did it last time. There were a big changeover, and that's when like Verstappen went from being and Mercedes put all their eggs in one basket for that 2021 kind of season where Verstappen ended up taking it towards the back end of it. But then the year after, Mercedes didn't keep up with it, so the gap were massive, and they're trying to do all this now to kind of like bring that gap down and limit that gap between the top three. Well, it was the top three. The top three now changed. It used to be like Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari. Ferrari now are arguably out of that. McLaren are into that because of the season that they had last year, because of the research they put into it. But I mean, for me, I won't tell them until end of the year as to what's going to be brought in regulation wise, because you can. It's very similar with like the American football teams start tanking because they know they're not going to do anything this year, so they're kind of putting all the R&D to next year. But the flip side to it is they need to finish at a certain like area, like it's like a certain position to have the money, and that's where like Mercedes have lacked over the past couple of years, where they've not been finishing, arguably that top spot or top two, depending on what the years, and they're not been getting as much money coming in as a competitor. So it's just been tough for them and having to find that money elsewhere. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it. What makes me laugh though is the fact that Williams just haven't got a car. It's just not there. like it's just not there. How do you?
Isn't it? Like
this date is the same every year.
Well, you've got this team, haven't you? Like Williams is probably one of the most historic teams in Formula One. Alongside you think of Formula One, you think Ferrari, like. They're there. They've been there from season one, but then right alongside him, you got Williams. Like they've had some major success. They're obviously British team, and it's like, how can you not have a car at this testing? And this testing's so vital, isn't it? Because a lot of it's behind closed doors because of all those changes and everything. There's no media, so there's no like publicity around the timings. There's no live TV, so. Essentially, anything we're being fed is either through like people hiding in bushes trying to get little bits of video footage on the phones, or what the teams want us to know, which is obviously not, I guess, common over the last few years. But for Williams just not to show up, what they're going to experience is going to the next round of testing, and you might have Red Bull, Mercedes, Audi, whoever. Really struggling this week, but that's what this week's about. Little interesting analogy. You've kind of got like this week's about sort of just checking like reliability more so than how quick the car is, and those little nuances. It's kind of like NFL preseason reps. They're more concerned about the reps. They're not concerned about the scoreline. And I think it's quite a nice comparison there. But yeah, it's imagine a team having no preseason games.
Yeah. So you speak about the reliability side of things. Now, I tend to not watch too much testing just because it doesn't give you an accurate representation, because no team ever goes out and puts 100% into the car because they don't want to give anything away yet. But Ferrari had a really they just had a poor year last year, especially the Hamilton side of the paddock, and they shoot themselves in the foot every single time. Every mistake, well, 90% of the mistakes that Ferrari make, it's an error on their behalf, whether it's the pit wall or whether it's the racing plan or whatever it is, their engineer, it's always their fault. They go out in the practice, I saw something, and the car just didn't work. Like, it just didn't work at all. And then they put a statement out somewhere saying, "Oh yeah, we were meant to do that. We knew we were going to do that." Well, why are you putting it out on track and getting it recovered if you knew we were going to do that? Like, you just wouldn't.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Like, it's so ridiculous. They've almost become a bit of a running joke, haven't they now? And it's I feel for Lewis, and I know he's very much I think a divided character or divided opinion on him. But did he go to Ferrari because it's Ferrari and it's that boyhood dream? I think so. Like I said, when you think Formula One, you think Ferrari, but also he's getting paid a whack ton of money. So did he go there for the money? You know what? Probably both. Let's be honest.
I mean, he weren't shy of number two at Mercedes, was he?
No, not at all. And, last year I had a miserable season, and he was quite bluntly honest about that. But it was just laughable when you hear some of the radio comms that he had to deal with or not deal with, because the guy never spoke. But they've gone out, haven't they? They've rumours are they're pulling someone from McLaren, Was it?
Yeah, they've got a new race engineer for him now.
Yeah.
I
So
couldn't
be
tell you the name,
interesting
but
to
yeah,
see how this season goes, I guess. But let's talk the superficial level. What have you seen of the liveries, and what's your? I think I'm saying that right. It's always a word I've struggled with.
livery. Yeah,
What's your favourite?
I see. I like the Mercedes one. I've always
Yeah.
torn with that Mercedes one. I like how it's not Mercedes don't even go for Silverado or the full black one, right? And I like how this is a bit of both, as daft as that
Hmm.
sounds. Because as much as I like the Silverado, it's never my favorite aesthetically. Like I always prefer the one that's normally all black, for instance. And I just really like the fact that they've kind of gone with this 50-50 there. For me, every year rolls in one of my favourite liveries on a car or on a team is the Racing Bulls. I think the Racing Bulls
Hmm.
always do a better job than what the Red Bulls do, but the
Yeah.
Racing Bulls livery is always, always, always just wonderful. But
I
they're the
love
two
that
that stand out to
you.
me the most.
I love that you mentioned the Red Bulls, and Racing Bulls aren't too much better for this year. It's like I'm not sure Red Bull can fit any more sponsors on theirs. Like it's just
No,
a really fast page of words driving around the track. It's
it'll
crazy.
just be a list soon. Just be a list
Yeah.
going down.
I mean, one obviously that I was really excited to see. A lot of Audi's a big name. Obviously, Cadillac's the other one. Two huge brands, and Audi particularly a massive name in motorsport. Outside of Formula One, they enter motorsports, and a few years later they win. And they've openly said, like, we're not going to compete this year. Like, it's the first season, but 2030 we want to be winning. We'll be winning
Yeah,
championships. So they've been an interesting one. And when we're talking about the aesthetics, I've loved everything they've put out, like the racing suits. I think Adidas suits, really simplistic design, love it. The branding that they've put out, love it. And I was really excited to see the livery. And then I saw it, and I was a bit like, oh, okay, it's minimalist. It's just three block colours. I'm not too sure. And me and a friend of mine, we always chat about Formula One, and so every day we've got like the calendar. So every day we're like, "Oh, have you seen this one?" And we were both a bit flat about Audi. And then I saw a video of it on track,
yeah.
and it just looked stunning on track. It looked
Like little is
absolutely
more in it.
gorgeous. Yeah,
I
definitely.
I've probably been the most distant than I have in the past 10 years on Formula One this year, and it's not because of lack of interest. It's just from lack of time on it. Like I'm going to the Austrian GP this year. I can't wait. My first time going. I genuinely can't wait to go, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing them all live. Now with the Audi Cadillacs thing, and as much as I agree with you with Audi Motorsports and what they plan to do, and what they try and do, with the Formula One is so much R&D as it is about like driver choice. And I know that sounds really obvious, but if you put Red Bull showing this, if you put loads of money into a car but you don't put that right driver, it's like Sam Darnold. If you put Sam Darnold at a bad team, he's not going to take him to the Super Bowl. Put him in a good team, it's going to do. You need to have that right driver fit for it. And I think their biggest choices now is not going to be a case of like, and with Formula One, it's so money orientated. Like a lot of the drivers buy their seats in teams. Like they need to look at who's giving us the money to kind of come and join this team, but at the same time, who's the right fit for the team. So only time will tell. I can't remember the last time I saw a team actually actively join rather than just rebrand, like when Alfa Romeo rebranded and things. I can't an actual team joining. I can't remember the last time I saw one joining, and it'd be to me as well. There's been a bit of press about it, but there's not been it's not been hammered. Oh my god, this is what Audi are doing. This is what Cadillac are doing. It's just been, oh yeah, there's two new teams in. Right, we're going to just crack on with usual proceedings.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting being like, obviously Cadillac being a big American brand. And obviously the Formula One's had a massive push in the States over this last 5, 6, 7 years. I think, is it 3 races we've got now in the States, which makes sense because it's a huge landmass, isn't it? And we've got
Yeah,
more than that in Europe. So be interesting though, just to see how much attention Cadillac gets. I think their livery is one of the last ones to be released. And I think it'll be I think F1 will give a big push then, because this is this new market that they're really trying to capture. And I think Netflix has done a lot of that, hasn't it, with the Drive to Survive show, which starts soon. I think is it in about a month.
Phenomenal.
And like that massively helps them. And then now they've got more races, obviously one being at Hard Rock Stadium, the other one on the Vegas Strip, and then the other one in Texas. Is it Austin?
Yeah, Dallas. Austin, right? Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Oh, Dallas, Austin? Yeah. So, like, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting season, actually. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait. And with the season being in our off-season with the NFL, we'll be talking a bit more about Formula One and other sports like that. So, yeah, get ready for that. So, nice. I like it. I'm getting excited for it. Like I said, I've been a bit behind on it, I must admit, but I'm looking forward to getting stuck back into it. I'm going to jump into my all other balls. And I'm talking about 2 big balls. Bigger balls than I could ever imagine me having, right? And they are owned by a man named Alex Honnold, right? Have you heard this? Have you heard this name? Have you watched it, right?
I didn't know his name, but I've seen it. It's impressive.
So I watched this yesterday. I saw it. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it yesterday. It's a Netflix live streamed. Alex Honnold climbing the Tope. It's pronounced Tope, I think. The Tope Tower. Tope 101, right? It's 101 floors, 508 meters tall, and he free climbed this. No ropes, no safety, just a bag of chalk on his back, and he set off climbing up the side of the building, right? What got me is the fact that Netflix streamed it live. One wrong move and he's gone, right? The contingency plan there and the health and safety they must have gone through, the paperwork they must have gone through to get this going. Because this side of this building weren't just like flat. It had these weird things on corners, and so it were like so much higher, and then they were called 7 bamboo shoots or something, and they were like slanted going out. So he'd start on the bottom bit, which were like in, and as he were climbing out, he were overhanging the floor, and he'd do that 7 times or something. Then he'd get to the top and he'd go up the spire bit, and this bit blew my mind. And like, I'm not fantastic with heights, but I'm watching it, so it's it's not really, I'm not doing it. So he gets to like the top bit, and there's these like 7 or 8 rings, right? And they're on this spire, these rings, and they go progressively from smaller to bigger, then back up to smaller, like a big kind of like circular shape. And he gets to like the one that's the furthest out, or second furthest out, and he's climbing up and he's hanging, right? And he hooks his feet around this ring, takes both of his hands, he's at top of the tower, bearing in mind, pretty much, takes both of his hands off, just puts his hands down, rests them for 30. The core strength there, right, is unbelievable. This one, he climbed it in 1 hour and 31 minutes. So I think he's like 1 hour and 15 minutes, 1 hour and 20 minutes into this, because he's really close at the top. His arms are aching, but his core strength to hold him up. I just couldn't believe it. But then the camera work, they had these cranes installed, and there's these guys hanging from like 80, 90 floors up in the air, just hanging on like a swing, just one cable coming down, or one wire coming down, swing at the bottom, holding the camera, just following him like going up the side of the building. Mental.
I get anxiety when so I went to New York for the first time, not last summer before. So I've always wanted to go. Been really looking to see a lot of America, and I've just not done New York, so I was buzzing when I was there. And I'm looking at some of these buildings, and it doesn't do it justice when you see it like on TV and things like that. You're like, oh my God, this city is insane. And then we're looking at the window cleaners, come down on the sort of like plinth things. I'm just like, oh my God, I would absolutely cack my pants doing that. And I'm all right with heights. I'm not, it's never really bothered me. Not humble brag, just a brag. I've jumped off the tallest building in the Southern Hemisphere, I'll have twice.
Nice.
So like, amazing experience. Auckland Sky Tower, if you're wondering. But like, I'm looking at it like I would absolutely cack my pants. Obviously, when we did Auckland Sky Tower, you're all strapped in. It's basically like you've got bungee cords attached to you and all that sort of malarkey. This guy has nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't know. Have you ever tried climbing before? Have you been climbing? Have you done that?
Rock climbing, yeah. I've done like the rock climbing walls and things, but
Yeah. And it's like
it's
even that, like the little
yeah,
overhangs you sometimes get there, and you when you're doing the free climbing, like the bouldering, and you've not got your harness and stuff, and you're still a bit like, oh god, I don't want to fall, even though I've got
yeah.
these massive crash mats and I'm only like a meter high. you know,
It
this is just nuts.
baffles me because like we were watching it and they have like viewing platforms in this tower. So like every so many floors, there's just crowds of people taking pictures of him while he's climbing up
Hmm.
this window, and he has some earphones in that they were playing. He made a playlist. They were playing him music in his ears for him to concentrate. Tool, one of his artists of choice
Nice.
that they were listening to growing up, climbing up. Sorry, but they also had radio communications. So he got to like certain checkpoints and they were interviewing him. How are you feeling? Yeah, no, yeah. I'm like, this guy's super calm, and he's getting to the top. He's like, oh, I'm getting a bit tired now, but I'll just crack on. Then the next checkpoint is like, well, I might take my t-shirt off because it's just getting it wearing my chalk bag, and I'm like, this guy's his arms, his forearms are like pulsing. They're just massive, and
Yeah.
yeah, look, credit where credit's due to him. Like it was something I never thought I'd see live on TV. I thought you could make a documentary about it, whatever. But a live show um, was absolutely mental. But yeah, it's just wow to have the kahunas to do this is beyond me. But yeah, that is my all other balls for this week. We have got a
I
couple of
enjoyed your
features
balls
left.
this week, Zach. I did enjoy
Oh,
your balls.
thank you. I enjoyed Alex's balls as well. I must admit, it's been one of them. But we're gonna swiftly move on, and we're gonna get into our two features for this week. In fact, I think let's just rejig it a little bit. Let's get into Carl's conundrum because I want to know the answer to this. Right. So if you don't know
Yeah,
what
I
Carl's
was
conundrum
quite
is,
keen for
guys,
that.
basically we ask you a question week in, week out that researcher Carl's found or asked, should I say, for you guys to get involved with. We had a couple of comments actually on our Spotify feed about this, so it'd be nice to kind of get stuck in with. So let's have a look, shall we?
Let's.
Okay, so I can see the answer now, Brad, because the slide's been popped on my screen and you can't. But I'm very surprised about this. Anyway, last week's Cal's conundrum was which current NFL head coach has more career rushing yards than Bo Jackson? And the answer was a Mr. Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. That
Yeah,
that was
that there,
unexpected.
yes, it was. It was. I'd never have guessed. And to be fair to you, I didn't even think. Well, he didn't play running back, did he?
I'm sure he was a quarterback.
Yeah, so I mean, like, so he must have been. He must have, yeah. Like that's wild to
Wow.
think about that. So well
Wow.
done if you got it. I know we had a
That's
couple of comments.
nuts.
Well done if you got it. We like to get your brain ticking. We'll move on to the Carl's conundrum for this week to go into it.
Jim
So again, guys,
Harbaugh.
at ABNF Pod, if you want to get involved with this, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, feel free to drop us a comment and let us know on this. Carl's conundrum for this week is the Cleveland Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders was voted to the Pro Bowl as an alternative this week after the New England Patriots made the Super Bowl. Don't ask me the review on that, but we'll get into it anyway. But the question is, who was the last Browns quarterback to make the Pro Bowl? So I'll repeat it one more time for you so you get this. Cleveland Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders was voted to the Pro Bowl as an alternative this week after the New England Patriots made the Super Bowl. But who was the last Browns quarterback to make the Pro Bowl? If you've got any ideas, guys, let us know in the comments, please, or drop us a message. We will be posting that onto our socials as well. Now, Pro Bowl, I want to touch on next week more than anything else. But how on earth he's got there is beyond me. It is absolutely, it is criminal, and it's all about his publicity and his marketing. is why he's there.
One of our friends said earlier, didn't they? Is Sanders going to be able to, like, Sanders is probably going to throw an interception in the like quarterback only skills tests. Like, it's just balmy. It's just balmy. Like, you could list 5, 6, 7. No, you could list most quarterbacks who played better than Shador this year. Like, I mean, fair play. He's a rookie, you know, and he had some good moments. He had some very nice, like, one-off throws. Credit to him. But, like, the guy is not one of the top, what would it be? Top 4, was it? Is he the
couldn't tell you, to be fair. I
one that's gone, I think. He went in for Drake May, didn't he, I think?
Yeah.
Because, yeah. So, like, he's not up there. He is not up there at all. It's balmy. Let's not get into this now because...
Yeah. So, just to repeat that one, who was the last Browns quarterback to make the Pro Bowl? Let us know in the comments below, guys. Right, we're going to move on to our last feature for the evening, and that is Stats That Sound Fake, but one of them's real. So, with this, we have tasked researcher Cal to go find us a very obscure stat from this weekend, from the championship games, and he's bobbed it into a bit of a slide for us, and he's masked it with 2 other stats that are completely bogus, and we have to guess which one is the real one. So let's have a look at these, shall we? Brad, can you see them? Have you got them on your side as well?
I have got them. So the first one, the Broncos became the first team this century to start a different quarterback in the conference championship than they did in the divisional round. So the Broncos became the first team this century to start a different quarterback in the conference championship than they did in the divisional round, is our first stat. Okay, so first team this century. So, researcher Cal, just for clarity behind the scenes, when you say this century, do you mean as in the 2000s, or do you mean within the last 100 years? I'm assuming it's since 2000. Just getting that clarity. Yeah, first team in the 2000s. Okay. Perfect. Zach, do you want to take the second one?
With Seattle's win, it is the first time that a team has played in a Super Bowl at a divisional rival's home stadium. So with Seattle's win, it is the first time that a team has played in a Super Bowl in a divisional rival's home stadium. Interesting.
Ooh. And then for the last one then, in the AFC title game, there were the most missed field goals in championship round history. Interesting. I love the topic, by the way. I love the focus of these, RC.
Yeah. See, I'm drawn on 2 here. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm literally going to go a 50-50 vote and just hope I guess right. I'm in my head.
I'm so torn.
In my head, I'm eliminating the middle one. I couldn't quote if a team has played in the divisional rivals home stadium, but in my head, probably happened somewhere. I don't know why, but in my head, it probably happened somewhere. The Broncos one is what I'm favoured with the most at this moment because.
So hang on, is that middle one then not the real one? We're trying to find the real one, right?
Yeah. So I don't think that's real. I think there's been more. I think it's happened. This is not the first time. Right, okay. So I don't think it's the first time. So I don't think that's real.
Sorry, I'm with you.
I think I'm towing towards the Broncos becoming the first team to start a different QB. Because I'm trying to think of a QB that got injured and came in championship round.
When did Foles come in?
That's what's throwing me off. That's what's throwing me off. When did Foles come in? Like,
he's the only one that I can think of. Although, is there a little nuance to this one that it doesn't actually mention anything, obviously, about the Super Bowl? Because Broncos didn't make it to the Super Bowl, did they? So, are we just thinking Foles because he was a big story and he went to the Super Bowl? Whereas actually it's maybe happened before.
What's striking me on that is that Foles tweeted out, didn't he, saying like, "Don't worry, they've got a bit of losing to backup QBs in big games." Like, so that
This is
AFC
tough.
title game.
I like this, Callum. I like it and I hate it at the same time.
Yeah,
That
you've
bottom
thrown me
one
off there.
is like a really boring stat. I'm sorry, and I know you're a kicker, Callum, but this is a really boring stat.
But it's believable because of the weather. I can't think. In fact, you know what? I'm locking it in. I'm locking the third one in because you think about there were 3 missed field goals, right? It doesn't say anything about anything about extra points there, but there were 3 missed field goals attempts in that game, in the AFC game. That's a large number to be missed in one game.
But do you not think like back in like the 70s, 60s, 50s when like surfaces were horrendous and the weather was a bit silly, like do you not think that that's probably happened before? I'm struggling. I'm really struggling with this one. You know what? I'm just going for it. I am saying the middle one is the real stat.
Right. So you're saying middle. I'm saying last. Right.
So just for the audio listeners, I am saying with Seattle's win, it is the first time that a team has played in a Super Bowl at a division rival's home stadium. And Zach, you are saying in the AFC title game, there were the most missed field goals in championship round history.
Yeah, that's exactly what that's yeah. Research, Carl. Which one's real? The first one, the one that I said. Oh, I hate this so much. So the stat that were real. For the audio listeners, once again, the Broncos became the first team this century to start a different quarterback in a conference championship game than they did in the divisional game. Hey, just on this one as well, RC, these best be real, by the way, because you've been called out. We've been having messages about you, by the way, about where you're finding your facts from. So these best be right. Now you'll be getting boot.
Yeah, you've been found out with some of your research, Mr. Researcher.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's saying here, KC played the Raiders Stadium 2 years ago. Of course they did. It's so obvious once you hear it. It's like,
yeah.
Oh. So, Cal, when did Foles start then? If it wasn't the championship round, was it divisional round, or was it even before that? Like, oh my word, that's so frustrating. That is so frustrating.
I even think.
Oh, the last 3 games.
The last 3 games.
Wow. It's crazy how much your mind gets like tainted, isn't it? Because all you think about is that Super Bowl.
Yeah. I remember watching that Super Bowl. Jesus. But that brings us to the end of the episode, matey. So again, we're focusing next week on the Super Bowl. Might touch on the Pro Bowl a little bit, but we've got an extended look on the Super Bowl and 2 Super Bowl teams next week. If you've liked this episode, guys, do us a favor. Head over to all of our socials at ABNFPod. If you're listening to this with no video, we have video versions of these with nice little fancy graphics and stats that you can see on the screen over at Spotify and over at YouTube. Hit like, subscribe, give us a rating, give us a review, do what you want to do and get involved the best we can do. Brad, anything from yourself before we go?
Good night and God bless everyone. And thank you for listening, watching. And Zach, it's been a pleasure. Researcher Cal, we hate you. Just kidding. Yeah. Take care, everybody. See you next week.
Peace out. See you later.